you doing?
Wanda.
How did you get in here?
Listen to me. This whole thing is about Vision.
Get out of my house.
Hayward was trying to bring him.
Don't talk to me about that. I don't want to hear about it. The drones, the missiles, Pietro.
Oh, Pietro, no, that wasn't us.
All you do is lie.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome again to my channel, Film Flicks and Comics, where we talk all things movies, TV and comics, and of course Marvel and everything related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And today, we're doing our weekly recap of Marvel's WandaVision. Episode 7 is up, so let's get to it. With its latest episode, WandaVision continues the trend of rolling out big reveals. As the finale comes closer, the first Marvel Studios TV series to see the light of day has set up an explosive finale that's going to have repercussions in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. WandaVision Episode 7 opens the morning after the events of Episode 6, where Wanda had expounded the boundaries of Westview after her husband Vision attempted to leave the Hex to get help for the people stuck within. Wanda is clearly feeling the after effects of her actions, and she's decided to force herself to spend a quarantine-style staycation day with herself. Here she talks to the camera, literally breaking the fourth wall, in the style of the sitcom Modern Family. Wanda's definitely going through an existential crisis as the twins wonder why their dad hasn't come back home. And what happened to Uncle P? That's Pietro. Wanda forcefully says that Uncle P is not their uncle and to not believe a word of what she says. Of course, the boys get confused, and Wanda admits that though she's supposed to have all the answers as their mother, she in fact has zero answers. She then goes off tangent about the meaninglessness of everything that leaves her kids very confused. Thankfully, Agnes, who has yet to reveal her true self, walks in to take the kids away. Wanda's world is now experiencing glitches, with objects changing shape or form. Outside the Hex, S.W.O.Rd's acting director Hayward is getting ready to launch something. Though WandaVision Episode 7 never gets back to him for the rest of the episode, this is clearly a table-setting move for the remaining episodes. Elsewhere, a groggy Vision wakes up on the same field where he tried to exit the Hex. He comes across Dr. Darcy Lewis, who is now an escape artist and who doesn't remember any of her previous self now that she's been pulled into Wanda's world. She thinks she's part of a circus. Outside the Hex, FBI agent Jimmy Woo starts to dig into the files that Darcy pulled from behind Hayward's firewall and discovers that Hayward was trying to bring back Vision online. That's definitely in defiance to Vision's will, which was exactly what Hayward had accused Wanda of doing back in Episode 5. But Jimmy says Hayward's team at S.W.O.R.D failed to actually do it, until Wanda stole his body and brought him back to life. Now it's 100% clear. Hayward has been tracking Vision within the Hex because he just wants his sentient weapon back. Jimmy and Captain Rambeau then meet up with their late mother Maria Rambeau's friends in the US Air Force, who've decided to help Monica out with a space rover. After a lot of build-up and fan theorizing, the person they meet isn't actually anyone interesting. Instead, just represented by a character called Major Goodner. Now, is she the aerospace engineer guy she's been talking about? I believe she's not, and that she was sent instead by her friend to deliver the rover. Maybe Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four or Blue Marvel, as a lot of fans have theorized as well, will still turn up in another episode. Back at the circus, Vision pulls the real Darcy out by doing that forehead thing with his fingers. Darcy admits she wanted a guest spot on WandaVision, but that it did not feel good, speaking to the kind of torture Wanda's prisoners experience while in the Hex. The two then make their way out of the circus. Going back to Wanda's residence, Wanda continues to struggle with the glitches, and right after she notices a voice from her supposed interviewer, we break into this episode's commercial. The commercial in this episode was for a fictional antidepressant called Nexus, capable of anchoring you back to your reality, or the reality of your choice. No doubt, a vivid recreation of modern American commercials. It was also a reference to what's to come in the MCU's future. In the MCU, we've had a couple of occasions when we learned about Nexus. Namely, during Age of Ultron when Tony Stark went to the Nexus to find out who's helping them change the nuclear codes against Ultron. Secondly, we saw the term Nexus in the board of Dr. Selvig when he was explaining the interdimensional portals in Thor: The Dark World. In Marvel Comics, however, Nexus beings are those rare entities which act as keystones of the multiverse and are crucial to its overall stability. One of them usually exists in each parallel dimension, and in Marvel's mainstream's continuity, the Scarlet Witch herself, Wanda Maximoff, is indeed that Nexus being. Of course, the idea of the multiverse will undoubtedly excite fans, because it's expected to be adopted in the next chapter of the MCU. Though Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness will undoubtedly explore that a great deal, fans are even more excited for the upcoming Spider-Man 3, as a Tom Holland-led sequel will supposedly feature stars from previous Spider-Man iterations, suggesting that the multiverse will play part into the movie's plot. Meanwhile at Agnes, Billy says he likes it at Agnes because she's quiet on the inside. In hindsight, the fact that the telepathic Billy can't read Agnes reveals that she's using her magical abilities to shut him out as opposed to all the noise of voices he hears when he's in town together with her mom's prisoners. Back to Jimmy and Monica and a seeming breakaway faction of S.W.O.R.D, Monica put in a spacesuit and gets into the rover. In spite of how powerful and armored the rover is, it fails to push through the strengthened walls of the Hex and starts to change its form. Monica gets out just in time to save herself, right before the rover is launched back by the energy field wall into the air. But not surprisingly, Monica doesn't give up and charges in blindly into the Hex in direct opposition to Darcy's earlier warnings that the Hex has already twice changed Monica on a molecular level. As she goes through the barrier, her body splits into multiple versions of herself over the years, and we can hear the voices of those closest to her. Her mother, Nick Fury, and Carol Danvers aka Captain Marvel. This episode then reveals that Monica seemingly now has her powers, as her eyes glow bright blue and sees the inside of the Hex in full spectrum similar to that of Neo in the Matrix. Elsewhere, the slow roll of Vision and Darcy back to the Vision residence continues. As they drive back, Vision is caught up on his entire history by Darcy. Darcy tells Vision of what happened to him in the past, explaining how he died twice, first in the hands of Wanda and then with Thanos. This scene basically reminds our hero of his heroic act of sacrificing himself to save half of the universe, only to fail because Thanos rewinds back time with the Time Stone in order to pluck the Mind Stone from his head, thus completing his mission. Darcy wonders why Vision can't exist outside the Hex, and though she's questioning whether his existence is real, she notices that the love between Wanda and him is 100% real. Vision then realizes his predicament and has had enough of the hurdles that he believes Wanda is putting in his way. Or so he thinks it's Wanda, and just takes off, leaving Darcy high and dry in the truck. Back in Wanda's residence, Monica intrudes into Wanda's house, which isn't the best strategy given how she was thrown out the last time around. She tries to tell Wanda about Hayward's personal interest in Vision, but Wanda isn't having it. Expectedly, Wanda lifts her in the air and threatens to destroy her, the same way she lifts Thanos in Avengers Endgame. But Monica uses her own powers to land back on the ground, of course in standard superhero style, which made Wanda pause for a moment. Monica then relates her own trauma to Wanda, saying,
I lost the person closest to me too.
And that she can't change it or reverse her death unlike Wanda, and she must accept it as that's her truth. Monica pleads with Wanda to bring down the Hex, but they are interrupted by Agnes. Agnes consoles the emotionally charged Wanda and takes her to her home. There, Wanda starts to notice that things are off, and weirdly, Tommy and Billy are nowhere to be seen. She wonders where they are, and Agnes says the twins are playing in the basement. As Wanda opens the door to the basement, we get to take a look at MCU's first horror movie offering. As she climbs down, Wanda notices a shadowy passageway with tree branches growing out of it. Wanda continues the path and ends up in a room with more tree branches circling old worn-down walls. And as she goes down, she spots a book that's glowing in orange and is seemingly held together by magic. Fans have been theorizing that this is the Darkhold book, one of the books that Doctor Strange keeps in their sanctum. For the uninitiated, the Darkhold, also known as the Book of Sins or the Book of Spells, is an ancient book of spells and unspeakable power. Comic book reveals that the Dark Book is made of dark matter from the Hell Dimension. The Darkhold was created in the Dark Dimension and was made of dark matter. The catch here is that it was said to contain infinite knowledge. Hence, over the course of history, many individuals searched for the ancient Darkhold, including Red Skull, Daniel Whitehall, and Nick Fury. There's a book about Darkhold in Agents of S.W.O.R.D, but as we know, Agents of S.W.O.R.D is not considered MCU canon, so I highly doubt it's the same book that they're referring to. Going back to the scene, Agnes walks in to announce to Wanda that she's not the only magical girl in town, and that she's none other than Agatha Harkness. After the introduction, we see Agatha's eyes glow in purple as she puts on the same magic to Wanda, seemingly taking over Wanda's mind once again. Wanda, too shocked and powerless to resist, falls under Agatha's delusion. The scene then launches into a quick montage of all the moments across episodes that she has manipulated, revealing how she was the baddie the whole time and that she was the one responsible for everything that's gone wrong or weird in Westview, including the arrival of Pietro Maximoff from the Fox X-Men universe and the unfortunate death of Sparky the dog. Finally, the validation we've been waiting for. It is as we and as so many others have predicted. She is the one who's behind everything, and Wanda was merely her pawn. Though not particularly shocking, the reveal nonetheless leaves a significant impact. The only question now remaining is she doing this alone, or doing it in behalf of a more powerful entity? WandaVision Episode VII doesn't end there technically, as it's the first episode that's seen during the credits. In it, Monica arrives at Agnes's house and looks for signs that someone is inside or not. Ultimately, she opens the external door that connects to the basement and discovers the timbers and the purple floating energy that we have already been shown are connected to Agatha Harkness. Just then, Pietro, who's been missing for all this episode, shows up out of the blue, causing Monica to be surprised and says,
Snoopers gonna snoop.
all told, it's one hell of a cliffhanger. It's one thing to finally confirm the villain, but it's another thing to find out what exactly will happen to our beloved heroes. Is Wanda more witchy than we realized? What are Agnes' plans for her? Will Vision get his wife in time after leaving Darcy on the road? What are Monica's new powers? And what is Hayward's plan of attack? Where have Billy and Tommy gone away? At last, we're not far away from the answers. Even if a few of those answers will invariably be that it was Agatha all along. Thank you guys for watching my video, and we're all looking forward to episode 8. If you liked the video, please smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you again, until the next video.